Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to GameStar TV, and it is match number 2, or game number 2, between Crimson Esports and Milkshake coming to you, and it's going to be on Infernal Shrine. So once again, to take you through it is Skimmy and GeoPhoenix. Take it away, Skimmy.
No worries. Looks like we're just waiting for Zep Wunderbar to jump back into lobby himself so we can get it on his stream. But yeah, GeoPhoenix, what a convincing way to start the day off with. We are now on Infernal Shrines, a much more comfortable map for the ANZ region as a whole. Do you expect to see anything too different from what we saw just game number 1?
Yeah, I mean, I liked some of the ideas that Milkshake had in the draft. I feel as though it was just a lot of the early laning phase that just really let them down. I feel like they just didn't really respect just how aggressive that composition from Crimson could be. So I feel as though Milkshake have the right ideas in draft. I think it's just a little bit of the execution that needs a little bit of tightening up.
Execution is what they're going to be looking to try and do here. This is an ODC in preparation for Season 4 to start in just over a couple of weeks now. So it's a great chance for these teams to see what their rosters can achieve, how they can actually improve. Almost like doing those mock exams for your finals at the end of the year.
Yeah, you want to make sure that all those niggling injuries or little growing pains are out of the way before you get into the real deal. And as we are getting into this next draft, it is Infernal Shrines, and Crimson Esports do have the first pick. So I guess it's Milkshake who decided they really wanted that map pick.
Well, they're both hovering Illidan and Dahaka as their first ban, which is a sort of surefire saying that they do not want to be, not cheesed, but have to deal with the global pressure, which suggests to me that they're going to be running a very sort of inclusive 5-man wrecking ball and does not want to sort of face the wrath of being out-rotated.
Yeah, that Illidan has been so obnoxious to deal with recently with the Hunt, and especially with the Hunt just being able to apply that split lane pressure and also just join in fights at pretty much the drop of the hat while also applying some crowd control. It's really obnoxious to try and deal with, and as we saw in the previous series, touching on that Illidan, he can dive deep. Sometimes it doesn't work out, but he'll always go back to being an obnoxious diving menace.
Yeah, it was cool to see Stukov come about, and the interaction that we thought could have worked did not come about. And I say one of the big things I wanted to talk about was the level 7 talent choice here. Actually waited for the weighted pustule expansion so that the bio-kill switch goes down to 5 seconds. If he had gone for the extra range, would have been just as safe as the Chromie. That could have been a combination that really would have worked in their favors, because they obviously got jumped upon far too many times, and they're going to be looking to try and go a different direction in this draft, and they're going to take their sweet time here with this first ban. Where do Milkshake want to rock with this one? They decided at the very last second Oriole is the preference choice, which would pan to this idea that they want this big 5-man unit.
Yeah, and as we've been saying pretty much all day, the Oriole is one of those high priority healers, and there are more than a few options for batteries for the Oriole. So it's not like, you need to take the Oriole and the Valor essentially as a duo, or else you're just not going to be able to get that healing. Oriole now is in a spot where she can kind of sustain herself, so just in a very good spot right now. Probably a little bit too much of a good spot, so that is going to be taken away immediately. And now we're on to the first pick for the side of Crimson Esports. There's quite a lot still on the table.
What I want to know is, where do they value this first pick? Do they still value Genji as a first pick? I mean, Octavian played that one pretty well. Definitely Genji is not going to be filling out this competitive mid at any time soon. They do decide, however, that with Oriole off the board, that Ufa is still the top priority. So Tessadar still in the mix, potentially if they want to go for that Vala Trinity. But it does give them a few different options to play with now.
Yeah, there are quite a few options that you can go with now that you have the Uther. I mean, double support has been a thing for quite some time now. We're a little bit more used to it. China, I think, pretty much go very all in on that kind of double support composition style. They go for things like Uther, Rhaegar, and they don't go for like a big healing support plus one of those half supports like the Tassadar. They go all in on just full double healing supports, and sometimes it works, sometimes it's just really obnoxious to deal with. But I just have to wait and see how the draft ends up playing out and how Milkshake try and respond to that in the draft, as we are going to be getting back into the draft very soon, as I do think we just had a bit of a DC.
Yeah, I believe the boys of Crimson Esports are at a Net Cafe boot camping right now, and one of their computers actually crashed. So that's the joys of playing at a Net Cafe. The reliability, I suppose it's better to have it during the draft than during the game.
Yeah, timing is a bit of a fickle beast. They just really you try and make sure that the timing works out for you, but sometimes it's just horrid.
Maybe it's like one of those like payphones. He's just run out of money. He needs to put more.
I just need to just go back and just put in all the quarters to try and just get it running again. But yeah, we should be getting back to it rather soon.
So with Uther locked in, first of all, I suppose with Illidan taken away, that's suggesting that they don't want to have to be forced into running the Divine Storm. I suppose really the question is for Milkshake, do they feel that they need to take away the Genji to amplify it? Or do they just allow it to run on through and say, well, we know that's what you're going to be trying to run. We've got our own sort of countermeasure towards that. I suppose if they are going to run a sort of dive-heavy composition, they've got to have sort of start playing around with these other ideas of the likes of Dahaka, Fausted, and to say, well, if you're looking to sort of go for that team fight, Fausted gains infinite potential as a much better pick.
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, you kind of need to either take it away or really go in with the plan. Because we saw that the side of Crimson Esports, they're fine running that combination. We saw it come out to just devastating effect. Ultimia was an absolute menace on that Genji, just diving in the backline and without any fear in the world, especially when you have something like an Uther to back you up. It's so hard to deal with for most compositions. So Milkshake really have to gauge whether or not they feel comfortable playing it themselves, because if they don't pick it up now, I don't think they'll actually get a chance to ban it away.
Yeah, the likes of Leoric, which spring to mind, a great pick on this map in particular. Same with Diablo. All good for those sort of choke point interactions. Even potentially Medivh, if the likes of Milkshake can play that in their arsenal of different heroes.
Yeah, it is that very strong teammate from NA combination, Glaurung's Medivh. That was always just an absolute chore to actually deal with. The Medivh Diablo that was very much banned away very frequently against them because of just how much you can just swing those fights and just get picks out of essentially nowhere. But against a Genji, he can kind of just not care. He just dashes away and doesn't really afraid of anything.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, though, I suppose with the priority on the Oriel ban, with Uther taken away, they did still leave up the likes of, as we already mentioned, Tessadar. I'm thinking Tessadar surely has to be a surefire pick for them as a result of, it's being far too strong to give over to your opponent than to combine with everything else said and done.
Yeah, there are a lot of options still on the table that are very strong and still work with what has already been picked up. The Uther can pretty much run in anything. I mean, yeah, he does kind of suffer a little bit when you start spreading out a lot of the damage with something like a Lunara. But in most cases, the Uther is an incredibly strong pick and will facilitate a lot of compositions.
Let's be interesting here. Do we protect potentially a Diva? If they are going to go for this 5-man Wrecking Ball, a big self-destruct in the middle of that point and saying, well, this is what you're looking to go for. I mean, I don't know if the Milkshake roster have that as a hero that they've considered. We've seen it in certain situations, most notably on here, as well as the Curse Hollow for the boss control. Definitely does have a place to be considered.
Yeah, I mean, the Diva is very obnoxious to deal with, has that very good zone control. And as you mentioned, the self-destruct, if you walk into the wrong area and all of a sudden you see a mech about to blow up in your face, you're not going to have a good time. So if they are able to play that, it could work its way into the draft. I don't think it would be on the high priority list, but it is something that could end up coming in later on in the draft.
So thank you very much, everybody, for dealing with us here. We're just waiting for Leica to get back on his computer in this net cafe. Apparently it's shut on down, so working through those issues, potentially jumping onto a different computer in that room. But shout out to everyone tuning in right now. This is the Season 4 off-season one-day competition. That's a bit of a mouthful to sort of say. A chance for the different teams in the region, new and old, to test out new rosters, give them a bit of chance to work on what they've been practicing leading up to next season, which is GeoPhoenix, going to be a LAN, which is always pretty cool for the ANZ region.
Oh, yeah. The LAN final is going to be absolutely massive. I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be very interesting to see. And also, just to note that this is not only a place for these teams to pretty much get ready for the next season, but Nomia, I guess, could use this as a bit of a last-minute bit of scrim practice coming into the Western Clash coming in next week, which you will be at.
Absolutely. Can't wait to see what the boys can do, and can't wait to actually get amongst a different set of teams, see what we can actually achieve on a global scale, get a bit more love and attention on our region. Looks like it is back into the game. Going to give him a cheeky little invite, and we can get this ball right back underway.
Alrighty, nice. Really want to see how this draft develops, because what was it? The Illidan ban, the Oriole ban, and the Uther first pick. Doesn't really give away too much, but it does leave still a fair bit on the table for both teams to pick up.
Is he going to join in? Come on. We're going to get there.
Oh, we're getting there.
Pending. Any longer, we would have jumped to a quick commercial break, but it is literally here. We're ready to rock and roll. We'll get some text confirmation, and you will be able to see some exciting ANZ Heroes of the Storm. Can't wait, Gio. Can't wait.
It's always fun to see how the scene has developed and continues to develop, as we've seen it pretty much grow from a bit of a one-team show to having quite a few teams that are really starting to develop quite well. And we are starting to see Darkside really at least challenge Nomia for the title here in the region. But we do have these middle to higher tier teams in the region really starting to pick up some steam, and it's really looking good as we get further and further into Heroes' lifespan.
Yeah, it's really cool to see the ANZ scene as a whole start to grow, not only with sponsorships and organisation pickups, but also just to see these players start to form new teams that actually really challenge some of these top teams. Most notably, as you said, Darkside are taking on Nomi, the 6-time ANZ reigning champions. They've pushed them the hardest they've ever been pushed in their lifetime. Let's talk about this matchup here. Ufa is locked in, as we saw before, but Genji and Greymane are the denial picks there. No Tassadar. So this will spring to mind that you're thinking Tassadar with that Trinity surely has to be the go-to as a response.
It is a possibility, but I really do enjoy or really appreciate what Milkshake has done here. They've taken away the two big options that Uther pretty much just facilitates the best. You want to pretty much put a Divine Shield onto anything that's going to be diving heavy and doing a lot of damage. And the Greymane and the Genji, those are those two massive picks for that kind of playstyle. And now that Milkshake has it, sure, they don't necessarily have the Uther alongside it, but they have a lot of tools still on the table that they can pick up later on in the draft. And now we just have to see where Crimson go with it. As you mentioned, the Tassadar into some kind of Trinity composition could work. I
wouldn't mind seeing Dahaka picked in here. I would not mind it whatsoever to say, look, okay, we know you're going to try and sort of measure us with a sort of a rock bashing a rock, the old Erosion Classic. They decide not to. They do go with option number one, which was that Tassadar Trinity. Not going to reveal all their cards just yet, but that's always a safe standard lane. Very hard to lose that one.
Yeah, and it's going to be applying a lot of pressure throughout pretty much all the game. You have to really be on your ball and on the ball and try and just pick apart those very few opportunities that you get when you're against that kind of Trinity composition. So now Milkshake they have to wonder, okay, how are we going to pick that apart? Do we try and just dash around the field, just picking apart the map? Do they ban away the Dahaka or take it away for themselves to try and play the global game and just not allow that Trinity to just set up and just force themselves onto the side of Milkshake?
Yeah, generally speaking, if that's a lane that you're going to have a hard time dealing with, you're going to try and find advantages in other lanes as a result, and it can either be through globals or just straight up team fighting potential. And this is something that Darkside do really, really well. They play these comps that have high execution, high CC chains, and look just to punch on as a result. Arthas has been banned away, which is a sensible ban given how much of a threat it imposes on both Greymane and Genji. It would fit quite well into what this Valor comp already has.
Yeah, and with that Tyrael banned away as well, so a lot of those frontliners that facilitate these compositions quite well taken off the board, and now we have to see what Milkshake go with. There is the Dahaka that you've mentioned. That is one of the tools that they can work with to try and play around the map more, not allow Crimson to just set up and just barrel down a lane. Then we also have to look at the supports. Who do they end up going for? I'm thinking the Rhaegar is probably one of the most viable options, looking at the composition that we have so far for Milkshake.
Yeah, I suppose it really depends how scared they are of the diving threats. I mean, Malfurion, despite not having the cleans, is still really strong in regards to holding members in place and also the Twilight Dream to sort of disable that. But I suppose that would be more of a denial. That's something like, Crimson would be wanting against, say, the Greyman and Genji. So Kerazim, potentially, always has been a strong pick on this map, much the same as Rhaegar with the Lightning Bond at level 1 to clear out these Shrine camps. They do opt for Rhaegar. 10 seconds left on the board. They go for Diablo as well. So this, to me, GL Phoenix suggests full Shrine control.
Yeah, and they're leaving the last pick open to for a lot of interpretation or a lot of flexibility, and just waiting to see what the rest of the Crimson Esports lineup is going to be doing before they really lock in that last pick. And there's a very nice, aggressive composition coming out from Milkshake. We'll have to see how they finish that off. But Crimson, they have so much to work with. They can pretty much do anything with their front line and the flexible role, and it would probably be okay.
I was just going to say, you know what I'd love to see in this final pick for Milkshake is just that Medivh.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that Medivh would work really well. Yeah. That Diablo, they've got the aggressiveness, and it could work really well, but we'll just have to wait and see with that one. Not getting my hopes up too high just yet.
Yeah, the ability to pop on through that window and say hello, get the APOC, jump in and out, the force of will to act as a sort of baby divine shield on the likes of Greyman and Genji. Depends if that's in the roster, but Leica, once again, is going to be rocking that Muradin, and Leoric is the final pick for this tanky team.
They have a lot of lineup. Very considerable front line there for the side of Crimson, and they're putting a lot of faith into the Vala and the amount of damage that she can dish out against that lineup of Milkshakes. And it's a very, very strong lineup that they have on the side of Crimson. And now we just have to wait and see what Milkshake try and finish it off with. I kind of want that Medivh, but I'm not sure it will be enough to keep them around in these fights, especially with that solo front line of the Diablo. I'm just not really sure it would be able to play out.
So I'm thinking either the Medivh or you want another frontliner. What springs to mind? Anubrak is still here. Despite the changes, he is still a really strong pick. The Cocoon can do work against Ufid to interrupt both the Divine Storm if he opts for that against the threats of Greyman and Genji, or even just a Divine Shield to act as a barrier for Vala when that Tesla shield is down. They are going to lead this one down to the very line. They do go for D.Va. So they're going to amplify what I was saying before. You know, D.Va has that point control. Their comp is pretty much Shrine control in a T. So it's all about, I suppose, Crimson winning the lanes with that Vala Trinity, but then Milkshake putting all their eggs into the basket and saying, we have to win the Shrine. That is our big focal point.
Yeah, really interesting compositions from both sides. We have some very consistent strategy amongst the entirety of the composition on both sides, and now we just have to wait and see how it plays out. I mean, we saw in the previous game, the drafts ended up quite well for both sides in the previous game, but I feel as though Crimson just kind of outplayed Milkshake, and Milkshake just not really respecting the amount of damage coming out of that lineup, and now we just have to wait and see if they can actually get it to work this time.
So I'm going to be interested to see here how they decide to play this Leoric, because they might even try and go for the adaptated build where you can, lingering apparition, I believe it is, where you can bounce between lanes and just soak all day, act as a sort of four-man pushing squad, and really try and say, well, if we're about winning lanes and you're about winning shrines, well, we'll just try and get a big enough sort of XP or talent advantage that when it does come to that shrine objective, you're at such a big sort of disadvantage that you'll never be able to actually win that.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I mean, the Leoric is more often than not fine to deal with anyone in a solo lane unless it's someone who's just going to just poke him out. He's pretty safe in a lane. And as we've been saying throughout the draft, that three-man of the Uther Tassadar and the Vala is going to be so hard for the lineup of Milkshake to actually deal with unless they just go all in onto one of the members and actually get the lockdown to actually stick. So it's going to be a bit of an interesting early game to watch.
Well, let's introduce these teams. Welcome to Infernal Shrines, game number 2 in this best of 3 between both Milkshake and Crimson Esports. And Crimson Esports currently leading this series 1-0. Let's introduce them once again. Team captain Ultivian on Tesla this time around. Moonshooter on Uther, Jesmez on Leoric, Vala played by Azure, and Muradin on his one trick. It's, Leica on Muradin.
Absolutely. And on the red side, we have Milkshake. It is Crazy Dave on the D.Va. We have Azog the Cat on the Diablo, Deceptive Smurf on the Genji, the Ratzer on Rhaegar, and Magic Gnome is now on the Greymane.
You know, I tried to be BM, and this is what happened. You know, it's a bit of instant karma there. So, wherever you are, mate, you love me. But let's jump into this game. Let's look at the sort of level 1 talents. I suppose Lightning Bond really was the go-to. You have to imagine that would have been the choice as a result of the Shrine Control. But Reanimation has been picked up at level 1 by Leoric. does swing in sort of favor to say that Lingering Apparition might be the choice. But Sight and Fusion opting for that as opposed to the increased damage. What about wave clear?
Yeah, and it's something we're starting to see pop a little bit, even in the other, the major regions, is you're not really wanting necessarily utilizing the Tassadar for that auto-attacking style of play, and the wave clear is kind of important, and those Side Storms really do a rather surprising amount of damage once you get later on and actually start completing those quests.
So this is the joys of not rotating through your lanes. This is a bit of a blast to the past, both in Alpha and Beta, when we had this tank sitting in the mid lane. Not really much going on. It was a bit of a slugfest in terms of how quickly they can try and clear the lanes. And it was all about sort of sticking in one lane and trying to get an advantage in that regard, which is exactly what Crimson Esports are doing right now. You can see how much pressure they're applying with this follower already. Yeah,
it's going to be hard for Milkshake to deal with, and I feel like they just need to try and make a proactive play, as they are starting to do now, as they do have Azor coming down against the slam down onto Valor, but just not able to get the follow-up, and Genji's taking a lot of damage in return.
Yeah, beautiful vault there by Azure. If he'd not decided to do that one, he would have met the wrath of a Shadow Charge with a stun against the wall, but he does pay the price. The devil himself is back. He'll be back up in 10 seconds, but it is first blood for Crimson.
Yeah, just a little bit of a misplay there. The Diablo not able to get the slam onto the wall, but even then, I feel as though there just wasn't enough follow-up on the side of Milkshake that they would have been able to even force away that Valor with how much support they have with that Tesla and the Uther. It would have been really hard for Milkshake to actually finish anyone off in that attempt, so a bit of an unfortunate situation there for Milkshake, but as we do get into this first shrine, now we have to start to see if they can get that composition to really work around these stable or these situations.
Absolutely, this is where they want to make things happen for them. And they're going to go straight on in as of the cat, once again finding the charge onto his counterpart. Tank v tank wars. And they begin when it comes to these skeletal defenders. Hitting water in the backline, looking to keep the members nice and healthy, nice and topped up. Self-destruct, aggressively positioned into the backline. Followed up by Deceptive Smurf, trying to find that initial kill, trying to even the scales when it comes to the 1-for-1 kills. And right now you can see they are stuck as a 5-man unit all around this. But will they have enough staying power to collapse and actually complete it?
Yeah, we do have Crimson coming back in. They do have the tools to work with, and Genji goes down immediately, and this is going to force back Milkshake, and this could be a very strong position for Crimson to just take this whole shrine, and this could really just throw a spanner into the works of Milkshake.
This hurts. This really does hurt. 31-31. It's going to be picked up. There's no chance for Crimson Esports to sacrifice this one, but it's not all doom and gloom. Yes, their composition is quite focused around that aspect of the game, but it is an early game Punisher. At most, it's looking to pick up a front wall. Hey, hang on a minute. The front wall is already gone because it's Valor, so this is actually going to find a fair bit of value now.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to deal with. This could just be this first fork going down on the side of Milkshake, and there's not really a hell of a lot that they can do. With that Punisher just wailing away, and being the arcane Punisher as well, it's going to be incredibly... It's just awkward to deal with for Milkshake, as like it does go diving in, and they're getting a lot of damage down onto that Diablo.
Oh, wow.
Immediately, there's not enough healing on the side of Milkshake to deal with that.
What you'd normally imagine is a first Punisher that doesn't really find too much value. Almost felt like we're playing with a Sylvanas composition. That Punisher went all the way towards the keep, starting to work on the towers there as well. And Azog the Cat is being picked up twice now, really finding a lot of pressure on top of him, almost overestimating how tanky he is, and especially without those souls, he's quite weak.
Yeah, and one of the things with Diablo, I mean, he does have a lot of crowd control and can really punish people who are out of position, but he himself, if he is out of position, he has very few ways to get to safety, and we've been seeing it so far this game. He's been out of position and trying to make the plays happen, but he's just getting punished for it.
And it's a rough situation in the top lane if we switch our attention there as well. Jesmez up against Crazy Dave, and you know, Diva not really going to have too much pressure when it comes to lane clear. Really, with that sort of wave clear build that I talked about for Lady Auric, is going to have full house in terms of clearing this. Can then rotate through to mid lane, do the double soak, almost playing as a Zul if he so desires. So right now it's all about keeping up in XP because they're a 4-level lead down, no kills picked up, trying to establish that those soul stacks with Diablo and be in the best position pre-next shrine.
Yeah, and they do only just now manage to hit level 7 on the side of Milkshake, so they do start to, well, they're back on even talent here, but they're still behind in levels, and level 9 will be picked up very soon as we do get engagement on the camp.
Oh, self-destructive, beautifully positioned. It's going to completely zone out the rest of Crimson Esports. And there goes the bang! Murden is picked up. Beautiful positioning this time around. They do pick up the camp as a result as well. And I say thank you very much for the donation. You did the damage, but will get the cap for your efforts. Jesmez forced to run away, but they're not going to be said and done there. They are looking for more blood. They decide to peel away at the very last second. Next shrine will spawn. Level 10 is very close to Crimson Esports right now, so much the same as Braxis. They need to find that window of opportunity and force it.
Yeah, there was a bit of an over-aggression on the side of Crimson. They wanted to keep on forcing the tempo of this game, but there's a little bit of an overstep, and with Crazy Dave on that Diva just setting forth that self-destruct, really just put him in a bad position. And nice little pick up there for Milkshake, and this is going to put him in a reasonable position, but with level 10 coming up just in a second, it's going to be very hard.
Just going to say, Ufa is in the bot lane, soaking for XP. What a time to be alive. They are looking to try and force that fight as a result, but as you said, the follow-up is just not there. Crimson Esports playing quite aggressively, but not getting punished as a result of it. And I say, this is the sort of the weakness. They say we can't force this one. Once again, it is early games, so it's not the end of the world, but we need to get 10 before we can start to try and contest these.
Yeah, Milkshake really respecting the level 10 coming out from Crimson, just not wanting to force anything. Yeah, the Uther was not there just yet, was, as you mentioned, soaking on the other side of the map to get that level 10, but they realize that being down so far without those heroics, as we do have an Entomb going down from Jesmez.
Yeah, he's going to try and hold back this advance from Milkshake. 2 members in the mid lane, 1 in the bot lane, 2 in the top lane, but they're basically sitting there holding. Now, I'm not sure if this is the best chance of them sort of sieging up here. Say they are going to get the XP as a result, but they would have been able to find potentially value by taking a fault through mid or bot lane. Anyway, Punisher has been picked up. It is a Mortar Punisher, arguably the weakest of all 3. This is going to sort of see how they can mount their defense. They might be able to get the flank on after that John Cena jumps in. Yeah,
we do have heroics now on the side of Milkshake, but they are playing it very cautiously. Crazy Dave has been dropped quite low on that Diva. And with this Punisher still having a lot of health, this could very well just be this front wall. The front wall of this keep going down as well.
Yeah, if the fight works in their favor, and Leica's looking for Haymaker's been picked up. I love it! Ancestral comes across, and Leica in the backline completely punished as a result of the APOC. No Dwarven toss to get out of harm's way. What looks so Krispy Kreme is just instantly shredded on down. Dreams and tears come about in the battlefield. The Keeper's still alive, but the cinematics were definitely picked up.
The Haymaker Playmaker ending in just a little bit of disappointment, as it ended up just being a very on point ancestral healing coming out of the Rhaegar to just completely deny that play whatsoever, and just a brilliant turnaround there for Milkshake. So they don't lose too much more out of that. They did end up losing one of those towers on the top side of those structures, but they're able to stick around in these fights, and they do get a nice invade, and they're in a reasonable position to come back in this.
That APOC was brilliant. Bought them enough time to make sure that Ancestral connected, and the turnaround was there, and that's what they need to try and get themselves back into this. When they can win fights, that puts them in a really strong sort of commanding position when it comes to actually the shrine control. Now, level 13 is soon to be acquired by Crimson Sports, but the next shrine won't be too far away. If they can get 13 in time for that, that's when they can start to really mount a comeback and start to really put on a sort of masterclass as to what their comp can achieve.
Yeah, and it's going to be a fair way away from level 13. It is going to be picked up on the side of Crimson, and that's going to be a nice little addition in their back pocket that coming into these next fights, and they are just going to be cleaning up some of the mercenary camps around the map. And with still a whole level away on the side of Milkshake, they have to try and get that soak going, but without the shrine being spawned just yet, they have a little bit of time to work with.
So Big Shot was chosen by Diva. So Crazy Dave not going to opt for the control with the bounce or the bunny hop as it's called. He's going to opt for the front load of damage, making sure that when they do dive deep, they can actually respond with some damage for the reset potential, because Greymane is looking to execute these targets with the Curse Bullet to start things off with, and Dragon Blade to follow it up as a result of Genji. Next shrine has spawned, and this time it's in the bottom lane. Lane is being pushed out in the top lane. They can look to try and force this one as soon as they hit 13.
Yeah, Crazy Dave does manage to get out of that with Leica and Jesmez. That's both of the tanks on the top side of the map, and now we start to see the members of Milkshake starting to move in, putting some damage down onto Azure, but with the shields and the healing, it's just a little bit too much to deal with just yet.
Diva does have Playmaker charge available. Playmaker did come across here. Leica once again being creative with his ult choices. looking to try and make something happen. But you can see that both, I suppose, Jesmis is just keeping up the double. So they're looking to try and get the collapse on towards Deceptor Smurf, forced to reflect and the Swift Strike out. Suddenly it's a 4v5. The Shrine Control, which we thought was their time to shine, I mean, it has to be put on hold again.
Yeah, and they're not even going to be using the self-destruct from the D.Va. It looks like they're going to try and use that at least defensively once this Punisher starts to threaten their keep. And just a little bit out of position, and as the wall was quite good from the Tassadar, but too bad that Davis is a little bit more mobile than that.
I'd love to see them get creative with their positioning, see potentially the tank go around the side as opposed to try and meet them 5v5 head-on like such. Punisher is going to jump on in, self-destruct in the back line, going to get a lot of value self-destruct. He's going to get punched away! I love it! Kick the bomb back into Narnia, and there goes the Frozen Punisher, chucking at its all bombs. Stun from Leica comes across. Azure looking to get aggressive with the Volt. Rain of Vengeance finding value on 3 key targets. John Cena jumping in, Divine Storm and everything. Ancestral connects with Azog the Gap, but it's not enough. His crazy high health pool is shredded on down. The second tank got an innocent Deceptor Smurf is trying to find something, but he can't. It's 2 for 1 at this stage. The devotion aura of the Uther keeping the rest of Crimson sort of all topped up. Azure somehow, some way is still alive. The Trinity working really well in his favour, but they have to get out. The keep is still there, and they are up against the wall, punched into the wall, and Leica, he might get out.
Oh my god, he cannot survive. There we go. That was insane, but we saw how much effort the Genji had to put in to just even finish off that Uther. It's just how much durability that he brings and healing that he brings to the lineup that just really made it hard for the side of Milkshake to just push back against it. And as you mentioned, the Punisher, the John Cena just slamming in, just really doing putting in his work as well, and made it really tough for Milkshake to deal with. But once that devotion ran out, and once he ended up expiring, it just was so much harder for Crimson to stick around, and that was when they started to pull back.
Absolutely. Strong sort of performance to start things off with. Their keep now completely exposed in the bot lane, taking a little bit of damage. No Mule, no chance to keep that one topped up. In terms of damage, let's look at the numbers. Let's crunch them themselves. Both carries, both Vala and Greymane leading the numbers with 32,000 apiece. That's where you'd like to sort of expect to see that damage come across from. But in terms of this Haymaker, that's really my big sort of talking point. It's being so creative, really adding another depth to what the Mirrodin can bring to the table. Yeah,
it's really going to force the members of Milkshake to really think about where they're positioning in case Leica just goes balls to the walls, aggressive, just tries to get into position with that Dwarf Toss into the Haymaker, as we've been seeing a few times already. Sometimes he overextends himself just to make that play, but you got to admit it is at least entertaining to watch.
So entertaining, so refreshing at the same time as well, because I say we're so used to seeing the Avatar, big health pool, crazy health pool to deal with such aggression, but I suppose with the Curse Bullet across 35% to your health, to your face, always a scary thought to consider. And you can see that Crimson were trying to full stack keep in the bot lane, try and keep them distracted, buy as much time for Jesmis to put in their value, and with that Royal Focus, he's able to just completely body both top and mid. Starting to really find value with that build.
Yeah, you were mentioning it earlier, it's kind of like what you usually see from Zul, where he will just clear a wave, move to the next wave, clear that again, and just get the experience game going, as we do have an engage coming in.
Once again, there goes the fight. Leica kicks away as of the cap, but are they going to bite off more than they can chew? Leica's in the backline, so dangerously low. Dwarven Toss comes across. One cocktail will do it. It could clip the skeletal defenders. It nearly does. At the very last second, third wing kicks into play, and he gets the health regen. There goes the APOC trying to look for the Uther. Start the fight off well. The Lion Storm comes across, but it's not going to be enough. Devotion Aura is there. Ancestral on Diablo, locked in with this Entomb. Ratset is gone. No support on the side of Milkshake now. And this can be the chance for Crimson to swing on around. Jesmis 1v1 against Azog the Cat. I'm sorry, you're going to lose that one with Drain Hope. Still looking for more though, Geo Phoenix. It's a double kill, 2 for 1, 3 for 1. Looking for the quad kill. Magic Gnome is there. But once again, Crimson Esports pick up the Punisher and they're smashing this game.
Yeah, it's just a little bit too hard for Milkshake to get in these fights. We saw them almost pick up Leica on that Mirrodin, but he was able to survive, and we're just seeing just the value of the Uther in general, with how much healing he's bringing and just the amount of armor he gets from doing so. It's really making it tough for Milkshake to just burst through, and they just don't have the tools to finish any of these members off. And sure, the Uther has been going down rather consistently, but he's still useful in that state. He can just pump out the healing from there, and we have Azure on this. Valid is doing so much damage, and it's making it so hard for Milkshake to just do anything right now.
The problem I'm finding is the engagements tend to be good on the side of Milkshake, but they're finding the wrong targets. They're going on towards Uther. Yes, it's great to take him out of the fight, trying to deny the Divine Storm, interrupting your dive potential, but I say he's going to that Devotion Aura, and when both supports are traded, Uther's going to laugh and say, I'm glad you took me out, because he is keeping the team alive. He's making the fight work in their favor. Once those cooldowns have been burnt, they're still topped up and healthy, and now Crimson Esports well on the way to level 20.
Yeah, there's a nice considerable advantage coming in for Crimson, and they almost take down the keep on the top side. They were repelled just a little bit, but they still have control of the map. They still have the advantage when it comes to experiences. And come the next fight, more likely than not, they will be a level 20 and they will have those Storm talents. And that's when this composition is really going to be tough to deal with. With Leo taking more often than not the Spectral Leech at 20, he's going to be a rather considerable damage threat to some of these frontliners.
Every single keep of Milkshakes is threatened right now. This next engagement really matters so hard for them, because I say if this Punisher is picked up, then that keep is gone. The core is threatened with 20 as well, as you already mentioned. They have a really good chance at closing out this game. And we've said from the get-go, from the draft, this comp from Milkshake is all about shrine control, and they haven't been able to actually establish one single Punisher, whether that be a level deficit or the pick's not working in their favor. That's where they need to sort of establish their control. Level 20 is nearly there now, but they're going to have to force a fight regardless if they like it or not.
Yeah, it's going to be a real tough position. As you mentioned, they need to make these fights happen, but now that the level 20 has been picked up, it's going to be even harder for them to get the right situation to work out in their favor. I mean, now we do have this shrine activating. The keep at the top side is almost taken down. A couple of Psystorms from the Tazita almost finished that off, but with this Mercenary camp pushing on the top side, the members of Milkshake, they are going to have to try and deal with this. But with the shrine being on the bottom side, this is just allowing Crimson to just drag them all around the map.
Rotations. As a result of winning those early punishes, they've now got the full grasp of this map. They can pick up an easy keep in the bot lane uncontested, because the Shamans were picked up too. Like you said, forcing such reactive plays out of Milkshake, a keep for your efforts, and the shrine in the bot lane as well. That is your win condition, point blank clear.
Yeah, now we do get the David Quarter out, but it's not going to go down too soon. Does take a lot of damage for her trouble though, so going to be forced back just a little bit, but now they're just going to they need to try and make something happen. With that keep now exposed on the bottom side of the map, this Punisher being on the bottom side of the map, this is going to be forcing straight onto that core, and Milkshake have to make a play.
The forceful there from Altibian saying, you shall not pass, blocking him in. And it's looking as if Milkshake are looking to try and make something happen right now. Curse Bullet comes across, not going to find any value. Won't be too far away though. And the APOC. Wow.
Gets
Two
nothing.
big old free. Nothing comes out of it. Azuk the Cat literally running it down mid right now. Deceptive Smurf jumping into the backline. Gets stunned out by the Rain of Vengeance. And Genji is gone. Self-destruct on the point. Not going to be enough. No damage and no kills. So 20 Storm Talents really coming into their own. Ratzer gets the Ancestral Force on a 10-second cooldown. It's only Crazy they've left in support, and the Soulless Diablo to the rescue, but it's not going to be enough. GeoPhoenix to surely is game, set, and match now for Crimson.
Yeah, that's pretty much going to be the last nail in the coffin for Milkshake. I mean, I really like some of the ideas that they had in draft, but when it came to the game, they just were a little bit on the wrong page and just got caught out more often than not, and they're just going to end up losing the series 2-0, but they're still in this tournament. They will drop into the lower bracket as they're just going to just have this last final fight. I guess we can call it a fight, as Azure is going to try and finish off the ransom, but doesn't actually manage to get those last shots. But Punisher is going to start wailing away on this core, and this should be game.
Looks like they're just trying to stat pad now. They're going to go for the kill on Azuk the Cat once again. The Punisher was leashed into mid lane, but it's not long before it goes back onto the core. 15 kills to 5. And on the day, Crimson Esports take out Milkshake 2-0.
Yeah, it was... In the end, it was a rather convincing series for Crimson Esports. They played it very well. They knew how to push the advantages. They knew what they were doing with their composition. And they had really good synergy amongst them.
Two different organizations, two different teams, back to the drawing board for one, but advancements for the other. Let's talk about the MVP program. It's for the entire series as a whole. Any names spring to mind for yourself, GeoPhoenix?
Well, in the first series, in the first map, we did have Ultivian doing very well on the Genji, and then was relegated back to Tassar duties. So we'll have to. No, not sure if we'll give it there, but I think Moondruid on that Uther, yeah, he did die a reasonable amount in that game, but he has been such a rock throughout these team fights that it's hard to look past the support.
Yeah, I wanted to say the same as well. Usually supports get a hard love and a hard time actually ever picking up player of the game or MVP in that respect as well. So the ability to get good cleanses, sustained, and even if you do die, it looks bad on the screen where you look like you're feeding, you're still popping heals from the grave. I'd have to agree and give it to Ufa as well. So Moondruid, congratulations picking up the MVP for this series. And that just about does it for this one, guys. We're going to jump to a quick commercial break as we get ready for the next set of games. So don't go anywhere.